Ya kama kawaida naomba ya kwamba when you join, please like. When you like, I get to know that you're watching us. And after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch broadcast. When you join in, please like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. Like, share, and let us know where you're watching us from. This is a tackle, and the tackle begins now. Lakini kabla ya hiyo, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu kocho. Haya, mighty Father, I come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive this morning. We thank you because of your faithfulness. We thank you for the blessing of our life. Thank you because of our health, mighty Father. We even thank you for this country. We thank you for conversations that you're about to have. We thank you for Panelist. We thank you for the audience who are joining in to tackle us. May you meet them at their point of needs. As we start off, be with us. When we finish, glory and honor shall come back to your name. In Jesus' mighty name we do pray and believe. Amen and amen. Asante sana. Naona kuna watu ambao wameweza kuamka mapema sana. Naona ya Johnson Kwecha anasema good morning watching from Detail. Asante sana. Elton Jones Pachero anasema the tackle niko ndani from your hand. Elton Kipchirchir Mibea. Asante sana. Emmanuel Serem. Good morning brother. Good morning brother. Good morning to you my brother. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Naona Kisimba Desama anasema morning to Emmanuel Serem. Anasema ameamusha Honorable Moses Nyiganet mheshimiwa mwenyewe Kapseret na Claudio Fedu Chebet akiwa pale Dubai. Julia Bungei anasema Bungei watching from Elgeyo Marakwet County Cheptelo down at Valley. Asante sana. Chris Tesi anasema good morning tuned in from Kabarnet. Asante sana. Loshamuro Junior morning to Sir Gerald Bitok getting you live from Nairobi. Asante sana to Nairobi. Kakife it all the way from Thika. Asema good morning watching from Huduma Center Thika. Asante sana Gaki. Golfin Paul anasema good morning Bitok. The speculations about a lockdown real. Lakini watu nyoneticha lockdown sijui nani aliwaroga. Lockdown ndio mfanya nini kwa manyumba? Ametoka kupigana juzi na mabibi. Haya. Naona kama sema good morning Bitok, the speculations about the lockdown drill. Haya tusubiri leo rais anazungumza na nchi. He'll be addressing the nation today in the afternoon, so let's see what he has to tell us. But I don't think a lockdown is the best way to go. Anyway, Emmanuel Serem naona maamusha Leonard Serem. Asante sana. Geoffrey Kwecha good morning from CCBO. Asante sana. Anaona pia a dog Yegon anasema good morning to you sir. Stephen Flames anatumaka sana karibu Katubia hapa nje. Asante sana watu wa Katubia. Umekaribisha ukunywa Katubia wale Thika. Asante sana Stephen Flames anatumaka. Farid Faraja anasema Kilimani tuko ndani. Asante sana watu wa Kilimani. Nashukuru sana kuwaona Kiblagat Kipto Kibnamba Kipnamta anasema Kiblagat Kipto Kimnamta from Lela Elgeyo Marakwet Yegon anasema yuko kona nje Chepchirchir Kuto. Anasema good morning GB. Good morning to you Chepchirchir Kuto. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tumai kwamba uko salama. Naona Nyakwar Tinda anasema good morning from Nairobi. Asante sana Nyakwar. Timothy Kipchumba anasema watching from Kitale kwa Imam Moses. Good morning to you my brother kwa Imam Moses all the way from Iten. Sijui kama uko Iten leo ama uko wapi. Kitanga Mai anasema tika tuko ndani. Asante sana tu Thika. Steve Flames Ntomaga Asama yuko tuned in from Thika. Lawi Kiblagat Cherop good morning watching from Mogotio Baringo County today. Asante sana Lawi kwa kuja kutazama Taco. By the way, thank you so much guys for making the Taco your most favorite show and the best morning breakfast show that you keep watching every single morning. We appreciate you and thank you so much for taking your time and sacrificing your bundles and resources to be able to watch these conversations every single morning of the week. Naona long Faraji anasema a long time I'm back. Karibu sana Farid Faraji. Umepotea sana. Makile Cherono good morning Dennis Korir. Good morning watching from Bomet County. Helen Samoe good morning watching from CBD Nairobi. Asante sana Jesebe Richard. Hey mheshimiwa Trans Nzoia. Asante sana Jesebe Robert. Thank you so much for joining us. Sijui umepelekaje Jubilee. Nasikia Jubilee inaendelea kukua maneno chairman wa Trans Nzoia. Haya sijui kama tayari umeanza kupanda wheelbarrow ama umeanza kuenda kwa Simba 40 Kenya ama kwenye ANC upande meli ya DVD. Naona Yegon Nicola Samba Nick watching from Mogogo Shek. Asante sana. Thank you so much guys from Mogogo Shek. I really appreciate good to see you. Ben Sheria anasema watching from Kabarnet. Keep Corey Titus. Good morning good people getting you live from Eldoret. Koima Moses good morning. Tackle tuned in from Eldoret. Asante sana Koima. Timothy Kipchumba good morning Bitok watching from Kitale. Ruth Chepkosgei good morning from Milimani Road. Asante sana to Milimani Road. Kim Kirwa anasema good morning. Clovin Paul asema sio kurogwa ni safari tunaogopa tusifungiwe. Thanks for the response. Good morning to Kolokta tutawala. Usijali abwezi fungiwa. Unajua sasa corona ipo kila mahali. Sasa unashindwa utafunga wapi utaacha wapi. So let's hope reasoning will prevail. Although KEPSA gave a recommendation that the country should be locked down, inter-county lockdowns for the next 3 weeks. That is a recommendation that the KEPSA has given to the president. So I don't know if the president will adhere to it or not, but it's left to time. We'll see in the afternoon atatuambia vipi. Jose Kinuja anasema tuned in from Kikuyu sub county. James Makawa anasema good morning from Nanyuki. Asante sana. Honorable Kibabu anasema watching from Meru loud and clear. Farid Faraja anasema Raila plus WSR is it possible? Haya Unajua sasa ambaye mwalimu mkuu wa kisiasa yuko hapa Daktari Muluka atatuambia kama inawezekana ama vipi. Vile lanza zinaanza kushikana, ni nani atakuwa wapi, kwa nini, nani atalima nani, who will be the horse, who will be the donkey. Rift Generation Cleaning anasema services tuko locked in. Asante sana Leonard Kipchoge watching from Kawangware Nairobi. Asante sana Tuangwaro. Moses Kebenenyi anasema niko ndani, shout out Harambee Stars, kumbe wanaweza cheza good football. Wow, walijaribu lakini kutandikwa kidogo, lakini for a team that not much has been invested in, I think Harambee Stars really did us proud. Then Lekibera sama good morning watching from Nakuru. Eldasia Bonga Ngwenyi Kishana watching from Nyansiongo Borabu County. Aradenta Muguna some watching from South Sudan. Thank you so much the guys from South Sudan. Aman Bugua niko ndani na Firirinda from Australia. Thank you so much the guys from the land down and Australia. Bogongei Dan Rongoe Dan watching from Eternal Geomarakwet. Santa Kiblimo Coach good morning tackle to Komacho Eldoret. Appreciate you updated info and logged in. Santa sana Deacon Samima Sama tuned in from Maero. Robert Kirui, good morning, watching live from Kiptoi, Baringo County. Richard Wanyala Hademoyon. Richard Hademoyon Dane from Tiati. Long time, I'm back to my favorite show. Bito continue with enlightenment. Asante sana Honorable Kibabu, good to see you. Carl Juma and some good morning from Muscat. Haya. Eva Chepkemai, Shemal Gemar, some good Jonathan, some morning watching live from Kipkenyo, Kapseret. Haya, nikirudi tutakuja kuendelea na salamu, lakini kwanza wacha tuende kwa Daktari Ekuru. Jambo baba. Daktari Barrack Muluka. Good to see you.
Kuru na pia si vibaya sana.
Wala daktari.
Msha tu kidogo. Najua hii COVID imekuwa ni kali sana.
Ni kweli.
Nafanya mambo ajabu ya kutisha na kutatanisha kidogo. Hata nasikia mnasema hamtaki shutdown. Mimi ninaunga shutdown mkono. Sababu naona nidhamu yetu imekuwa ni nidhamu punguani.
Lakini daktari, corona ipo kila mahali kwa sasa. Sasa utafunga wapi, utaacha wapi?
Lakini tunastahili tuwe na kiasi fulani cha nidhamu. Vitu vidogo tu kama vile tumeambiwa tuvae barakoa kama hii. Na najua barakoa ina bei, lakini unapata barakoa imekaa huku kwenye kidevu. Sasa hiyo barakoa ni kama kitu tu cha kuvaa kama talisman hivi. Ile ambayo ukiwa nayo au ukivaa kwenye mkono hivi.
Nimeona baadhi kuna watu ambao wanaivaa sana kwenye mkono.
Inakuwa sasa
sijui ni style gani hiyo ile
kusaidia nini? Hata tunapoambiwa tusisalamiane kwenye mikono, tunakataa. Ni vizuri tu watu waketi kwao wakisalamiana siku yote katika mkono. Barakoa wasitumie, kunawa wasinawe. Hizo hatua ambazo tumeambiwa tuweke, watu wasiweke. Kwa sababu wanasema katika Kiswahili ushikwapo shikamana. Na ni vizuri tujaribu kufanya vitu vile ambavyo tunaambiwa, vingine ni vipesi. Utapata watu wanazurura tu mtaani. Mtu asiyekuwa na kitu chochote ambacho ni kitu muhimu lazima akifanye. Hata sisi tunazidi na hivi vitu tunavyoambiwa kila siku tunavifanyia mzaha. Tunaambiwa kuwa sasa tuko katika awamu ya 3. Awamu ya kwanza ilikuwa awamu ya pili, sasa ni awamu ya 3. Sasa sisi tuko na mustakabali na hivi vitu. Hivi kwamba tunajua kuwa kitaisha siku fulani. Baada ya awamu 2 au awamu 3. Tutakuja kuwa awamu ya 4, awamu ya 5, awamu ya 6. Hata labda awamu ya 20. Na huenda vikatumaliza. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri wakati mwingine vitu vingine tuzifanyie mizaha. Najua kwamba tumekuwa nchi ya mizaha, kuna uhuru hasa wa mazungumzo. Hata sasa nikizungumza hivi, bila shaka kuna wale ambao wameanza matusi kwenye mtandao. Na hiyo ni sawa. Na hiyo matusi yatakuja kuisha siku moja
itakuja kaisha.
Vitu fulani tukiambiwa nafikiri ni vizuri, ni vitu ambavyo vinatufaa sisi wenyewe. Tuweze kutafakari na kuchukua hatua zinazostahili. Tunaona kila siku watu wanaaga kila siku. Tunasikia kwamba maeneo fulani ile wanaita positivity inaanza kufikia hata karibu 60%. Ni vitu vya kuangaisha, na kwa hivyo nisingependa kufungwe, lakini itabidi tuweze kujirekebisha.
Haya, apart from that, wiki yako imekuwa vipi? How's your week been like? We could not have you last week on Friday.
Nilisema mzee Manyuria huko kwetu kwa mambo fulani ambayo yalikuwa ni mambo muhimu, mengine ya dharura, na nimeleta salamu kutoka kwa watu wa Manyuria. Wamesema nikifika huku niwasalamie, na nisalamie Kenya mzima. Unajua kwetu wa Manyuria,
kwani Manyuria sio Kenya?
Sisi ni watu wa salamu. Unajua kwa nini tunaitwa watu wa Mrembe? Mrembe ni salamu, Mrembe ni amani, Mrembe ni shalom, ya peace.
Mrembe mno.
Na nafurahi kumwona huyu KIRUI ambaye ni mwanasheria, na unajua wanasheria ni kitu muhimu sana. Tulifunzwa na mtu aliitwa Ustadh Shaban bin Robert umuhimu wa sheria katika riwaya yake inayoitwa Kusadikika. Ndio tukajua umuhimu wa sheria ni nini, ingawa viongozi wa nyakati hizo katika hiyo jumuiya au nchi ya kusadikika hawakupenda uvumbuzi na uzinduzi wa wanasheria. Walitaka kwamba wanasheria uangamizwe ili watu waweze kufanya tu, wale walio kwenye mamlaka kufanya vitu tu kwa njia hohehahe wanavyopenda wao, na watu wale ambao ni watu pia hohehahe nao pia waweze kuangamia tu. Asante.
Hi, it's good to see you again, Barack MULUKA. We missed you last week, and I hope ya kwamba mambo ambayo yalikuwa pale Manyuri yalikuwa shughuli ya ujenzi wa nchi. Unasema kwamba watu wa Manyuri wamesema tusalimie Kenya, kwa hivyo watu wa Manyuri wanaamini ya kwamba hao hawako Kenya. Sasa sijui ni vipi, sijui ni barabara ili katika, sijui ni daraja halijajengwa ndio tuanze kujenga madaraja ya kufika Manyuri.
Ambavyo mmetuacha tu, lakini hatulalamiki. Sisi ni watu wale ambao tumezoea mateso bila chuki. We are used to suffer without bitterness.
Kwa hivyo watu wa Manyuri, salamu tumezipokea, tunawasalimia tena kwa sana, na tuomba kwamba serikali ifanye kitu inaitwa building bridges to Manyuri. Ndio Manyuri ianze kusikia kwamba pia hao wako kwenye nchi ya Kenya. Another apologies from Dr. EKURU. He lost his nephew last week, na ameenda mazishi, so hakuweza kujumuika na sisi today, but he has asked me to pass his apologies to you guys and people to join us next week. All right, thank you so much also for the partners. Maridadi Motors, thank you for working with us. Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to import your vehicle, and you get to save at least even up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings. Maridadi Motorcycle gives you an opportunity to own a unit, a vehicle at 50% savings, alafu ile nyingine unalipa pole pole ukiendesha gari yako. Alafu pia Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuwekeza pesa zako ambazo umeziweka mahali, zile pesa za akiba ambazo weka mahali, you can invest in Maridadi Motors, na inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kupata 15% earnings on your investment. 15% on your investment unapata kutoka pale Maridadi Motors. That's the only company that gives you an opportunity to thrive and also make money while you invest. Your money works for you. Haya, naona pia kama pia uko YouTube, tafadhali if you're on YouTube, kama kuna watu ambao wako Facebook, kama uko YouTube tafadhali you can also look for Gerald Bitoko on YouTube. You can watch us live. Gerald Bitoko on YouTube, you can watch us live. Kuna watu ambao kwa kuuliza kama if you can go live on YouTube, Gerald Bitoko live on YouTube, you can find us there. D-Square ambao kwa Eldoret pia, thank you so much for partnering with us and always dressing us. If you want, kama unataka kung'ara zaidi, kimbia pale D-Square Getia Building, third floor, uweze kupata mng'aro alisi. George KIRUI, good morning.
Jambo.
Good to see you.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
This is your first time on the taco?
Indeed it is, and definitely not the last.
George, amepata breakfast ndio unasikia sauti.
Nasikia. Alipata kiporo asubuhi. Alipata kiporo asubuhi. Sijali tumetumana ugali yako Java yaje.
Wengine hatujapata kifungua kinywa.
I gotta say, George.
Thanks. But they gave me very strong coffee. That's why I'm very
umechangamka kabisa.
Thanks for having me. Due recognition also to my eminent co-panelist here, Bwana MULUKA.
Asante, George.
Thank you for the wonderful comments you made about the legal fraternity. We really appreciate. And you will never suffer while we are here. Let me just come out and say that.
Wengine pia huwa mnatukandamiza. Mnatumika vibaya na upande ule mwingine.
I understand.
Upande upi MULUKA?
Upande wa ukandamizaji. Ulio kinyume cha sheria za binadamu na taratibu za uendeshaji na uhifadhi mwema wa jamii na jumuiya. Lakini ni sawa, nasema kila mtu aweze kutetewa, hata yule muuaji naye aweze kupata mtetezi, yule ambaye ni mporaji naye aweze pia kutetewa, yule anayetumia mabavu, muimla, naye pia aweze kutetewa. Basi ndivyo hivyo. Lakini mtu anapokuwa amechinja mtu na mmemwona akichinja, kwa nini mnamtetea?
Swala nyeti.
Yes, swala nyeti. You know, as lawyers, it's we are legally mandated to represent everyone, good and bad. But it's my belief that good shall always triumph over evil. But your comments are really noted. Bwana MULUKA.
But anyway, you appreciate the comments. Anyway,
I appreciate the comments.
All right, I have to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to your class, because since it's your first time on the
Indeed
TACO.
it is. TACLAS, my name is George KIRUI Ngetich. I'm a corporate lawyer practicing in this esteemed city of ours. I'm also an aspiring political commentator, like my esteemed co-panelist here. I'm also a champion of human rights and a defender of justice.
Yes.
Indeed, I am.
Wow.
And you are already a commenter.
Ushavalisha kofia aanze kazi. But so I want us to start from the comments that requests that I made by the viewers yesterday on mambo ya sheria. Very briefly tuangalie mbio alafu tukirudi tuanze kuangalia mambo ambayo kifanyika kwenye wiki, sababu Sheria Wiki ni show ambayo inatupa nafasi kuangalia nyuma na kuona ni lipi limefanyika kwenye wiki ambalo linahusika na sheria kwa sana. Kwa hivyo tutakuja tuangalie kwanza mambo ya wananchi walisemaje hapa. Kuna jamaa alikuwa anauliza, the someone was asking data privacy. Nowadays you pay via Lipa na M-Pesa. The vendor assume you want to be getting promotional services. Even pubs have joined the fray. You pay via M-Pesa, you keep being bombarded by SMSs whenever. What does the law say on the invasion of privacy? Why do they assume you would want to be getting such SMSs that you are only paying for a service at no point do we sign up to be receiving promotional materials from them?
Thanks for that question, by the way. Data Privacy Act actually has very robust provisions on safeguarding the privacy of people's data. However, one thing wananchi should know, whenever you're giving out your number, let's say in a bar or in a promotional aspect, you actually tacitly or implicitly agreeing to your number being used for promotional purposes. I'll give another example. Let's say you go to access a certain website and they ask you to agree to the terms and conditions therein. Usually, if you read the fine print, it actually has provisions allowing the vendor, in this case, to use your data. I'll even go a step further. When you're applying for these loans, Tala and the like, you know, when you agree to those terms and conditions, you are allowing them to use your data in that fashion. So what Kenyans should do is to be very careful. Every time they are giving out their numbers to be used by any sponsorship drives and that kind of thing. Because if you take this to court, you'll find that you may actually lose. Yeah.
So there's always a consent. Whenever you pay for services, you have given them consent to use your
implicit
information.
consent. It doesn't have to be express, but it is implied that you've given consent. Yes.
Right. What do you think, BARRACK? I think you've also been a victim.
All of us are. And for a start, I'm averse to the whole notion of the so-called fine print.
Yes.
The law ought to be open and transparent. When people hide certain very nefarious intents in a very lengthy text,
Yes.
because we say in philosophy that all religions are the same, but the devil is in the detail.
Indeed.
Yeah? So you getting online, and there's that very lengthy text that runs into several thousands of words, and they're in very minute print. And they have written there, agree. In fact, most of the time you are invited to agree even before you have read that fine text.
And I actually don't even people read it.
Which is a very wicked intent, as the lawyers themselves would say, ab initio.
Yes.
From the very start, the intentions are suspect, they are malicious, they are not well-meaning. And when we talk about the notion of tacit consent, as a student of political science, I've had big challenges with that notion of tacit consent. I first came across it when I was learning about the utilitarians, the people who talk about the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people, the likes of John Stuart Mill, John Mill, Jeremy Bentham, and the like. At the initial stages, it looks like it is a very good philosophy, but I've seen that what they give with one hand, they take away with the other hand. And so I think to talk about tacit consent is an oxymoron that ought to be a nullity in law. But if the lawyers who say they are learned and the rest of us are not, if they say that that is okay, then so be it. But I think privacy must be respected.
I agree with you, Bwana Muluka. Philosophically, what you're saying is very sound and very right. However, now the problem is, the lawyers and us. Usually now on the ground, when you go to court for interpretation, it'll be what you signed and what you didn't sign. But actually, what you're saying is very sound and very, very true and very apt. Maybe we should have a larger discussion on how the act should be amended to basically allow for these philosophical underpinnings that Bwana Muluka is talking about. But maybe that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, sure. But before we exit that space, when they say the law is an ass, they're saying that the law is stupid. They're talking about us as in punda,
yes,
which is supposed to be a stupid animal.
Indeed it is.
And they are saying that the law is blind, that the way it reads is the way it's going to be followed, it's the way it's going to apply. They are saying that ignorance of it is no defense. The law is an ass. The law is stupid. Then you start wondering, why is it that people who have learned and excelled in this thing that is stupid, which could in fact be reduced to stupidity, why do they call themselves learned friends? Are they learned and friends in stupidity? Or what kind of friendship is this? Laws should be progressively ameliorative. And since the earliest times of the practice of law, and I don't know much about law except the law of Moses, yes, and the laws of Hammurabi, the lawgiver, yeah, I think that it's very important that we keep on improving the laws and who they are serving. The people who generated this notion of the law being an us are the paragons of liberal democracy. And liberal democracy itself is a lie.
Okay.
I regret to have come to that conclusion. But it is the reality that liberal democracy is a lie. When you read even such distinguished liberal democratic thinkers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, you find that actually everything they have given you, they have taken away.
Yes.
Jack Russo is famous for his treatise on inequality, the origin of the state and the inequality among men. And that title is deliberate. It does not say among men and women. That when you have come to the end of that very eloquent discourse, you discover that, and I think it should be read alongside the social contract, and which is a notion that he borrowed from John Locke before him, that this social contract is between the state, the rulers, and the owners of property in society, the rich people. And although life is also supposed to be a form of property, the lives and property of poor people, women, and if this may sound a little contradictory, slaves, because a slave really owns nothing apart from his or her life and labor, and that labor is to be taken away for free, that those ones do not really matter. Russo tells us that the perfect constitution in the world is the constitution of Switzerland or Geneva, which was his original country. And it is a constitution that is oppressive of the massive populations. But those populations do not matter. Women, slaves, the poor people, and black people, people of color, they are to be discounted when conversations about human rights and about their identity as people protected by the law should not be taken into consideration, but as the eminent lawyer says, it could be a conversation for a different day.
But I must be allowed to respond, albeit just very briefly.
Indeed, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. We don't want to take too much of your time. Yes, the writers of the law maybe have moronic intent. However, I'd be remiss if I did not defend my fellow lawyers who merely interpret it. Yeah. And to impugn their character and mental capability is something I cannot sit here and allow to happen.
Therein lies my problem with the law, that you say our role is just to interpret and apply. It doesn't matter. If it says you shall chop off his head, you chop off the head, because that is what is written at page 65. Article 20.23b. I think that kind of law needs to be ameliorated.
It's an ass.
As you said, it's an ass.
All right, now, there's someone else who's asking a question here about... Hello, sir. Asks for me what are the legal processes when a biological father disowns his sons having not taken part in their raising and education. Very quickly, I'll start with you.
I go with the natural law, the law of natural justice, and which is very expansive. Yeah. It goes beyond that thing which we usually are told that you must be given the opportunity to be heard. And if you are the biological father, I think there would be apparatus that help to determine that you are the biological father. And if you are the biological father, therefore, in Emmanuel, where I come from, the notion of rejection of that which whom you have sired does not exist. But then that is my customary law, which a statute law may find to be repugnant and therefore inadmissible.
Go in, Wakilu.
Yeah, no, actually on this issue, the law as currently constituted is very clear. if the child is yours, you have a duty and an obligation in law to actually support the child. But there's actually a bill in Parliament that was being proposed where that was actually proposing exclusion of biological children if one has not basically recognized them. But that's a bill that's been proposed, and I don't agree with it at all. It is wrong. The child is yours, support him, and that's a law. Even if the child is not yours, sometimes, like in cases of adoption, the law as presently constituted, if you have recognized that child, you will be liable for support until the child reaches the age of majority.
Right. There's also the issue of blocking side chicks from inheritance, from succession.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a proposal by this MP from Nyanza. Kaluma, yes. And Kaluma has really dedicated his parliamentary duty to fighting side chicks. Since he got into parliament.
It really has. Apparently, there's one political commentator who said that he should not use parliament to legislate the issues that he's facing in his personal life. But that's a different story. The issue of side chicks has become very thorny. First of all, let me come out and say I'm a happily married man. All those watching at home. In perpetuity. Yeah, but you've seen of late, whenever people, especially,
light touch.
Yeah, of course, whenever prominent personalities of late have been passing on, every day you see that someone comes out of the woodwork and says that they want to be recognized. Now, personally, I believe that is not all. My personal belief is that if the lady has a child with the man, and the paternity can be proved, then I believe the state should provide for the child. However, I am also inclined to side with the bill in Parliament, only to an extent that why did this lady come out in the lifetime during the lifetime of the deceased? Why wait until this guy has died? However, right now, how courts interpret it is that if it can be shown that, apart from even DNA, that there was an element of support, let's say they look at the deceased M-Pesa and financial transactions, state transfers and that kind of thing, she can actually have a claim. But that's actually a question we should discuss as a society. It's not a question for legislators per se, for lawyers per se. We should all decide. Maybe we should have a referendum on it. On a light note.
Right. Now, there's someone else who has asked about.
I think that when people are participating in the kinds of processes that generate life, they must know what the end results could be. And they should be prepared to bear them in life as in death.
Indeed. Well put.
Horizontal activities, fanyeni na adabu. Haya. Yes, so someone was asked about paternity issues. I don't know what he meant.
I think they are the same.
They should be the same thing.
Things that, as you say, are products of horizontal or lateral affairs.
My parents are watching. I want to comment.
Now, there's someone who's asking about the ceremonial role of Parliament. But I think that's a discussion that we get in as we head into our main discussion. So I not want to give it an anticlimax. Lefarin Sige says, we'd like to understand more about the thing about DP those are being expelled from Jubilee Party and more about if he's impeached in Hivo too. Very quickly, because I think there's a question that has been asked several times. So the impeachment of the DP and also his expulsion from Jubilee Party.
Well, the DP has not been expelled, has not been impeached as far as I know. But you mean like the proposal?
Yeah.
Well, the Constitution actually lays out very clear provisions for the impeachment of the DP, if it comes to that, if they have the numbers. But it also spells out clear grounds. One of it is gross misconduct. Yeah, it cannot just be a purely political process where we don't like this guy. So when we have the numbers and we're removing him. Let's have very, very, very clear guidelines. So that have to be met. And it's a very high threshold that is set. It's not very easy to achieve. Yeah.
Okay. Now there's another issue of, I think someone was asked about taxation. And I think you're a commercial lawyer. So taxation laws ranging from laws governing issues of double taxations. You are heavily taxed in Kenya, from import tax, progressive taxes, VAT, excise tax, and the worst being railway levy funds and fuel taxes. How is a taxation structured, and how can you protect yourself from over taxation? Are we overtaxed? Are we taxed well? Are we having some loopholes in tax?
Okay, first of all, I believe we are really overtaxed in Kenya. In fact, we are being taxed to the Stone Age. Yeah. And that basically to fund some of these projects that the government is undertaking, but it's become too much. It's a burden on the people. Now, when it comes to taxation issues, you have to remember there's a distinction between tax evasion and tax avoidance. You can structure your activities smartly in a way that
I need that. I need to know that.
Yeah, I come to my office to can structure your activities in a way that you attract the minimum tax applicable, which is not to say you're avoiding, which is a crime. Yeah, but I agree. As currently constituted, the tax regime in Kenya really needs a rethink. Yeah.
All right. I want to throw this to you, Daktari. What does the law say when a general loots, that is in reference to NMS? Because Nairobi County is being run by a military man who is not accountable to the public, because when he messes up, he's taken back to his general. Now, when public money is lost in a public institution like NMS, who holds this guy accountable?
First, I'll start from the known and move on to the unknown. What I know is that there are indeed certain military officers working for the people of Nairobi through the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and that they derive their mandate from the articles of the law that empower the president to make certain appointments, and that in this particular case, the appointments were also made subsequent to the signing away of certain duties and responsibilities by the then governor of Nairobi, with relevant civilian authorities, and therefore General Mbadi was appointed to head the NMS. That one I know. I also know that I've not heard of any improprieties in NMS, and therefore I would hesitate to want to be unduly nervous that some impropriety could be taking place. And I also take note that that particular question or questioner has framed the question in a manner that is loaded with value and meaning, because words like looting are sort of extremist. They move to the far right of, in fact, far left of such notions as impropriety. You know, when you loot, then we could not possibly think of anything worse. It means you're even able to kill or to lay the whole place waste until there's nothing that is left. You see even burglars, when they have been in your house, sometimes you can come and you find there's still a bit left. But looters don't leave anything.
Leave no stone unturned.
They even could bring down the house itself, literally. And therefore I think that anybody who would be involved with those kinds of things would go beyond the usual military discipline through court-martialing. And they would face the wrath of the law of the land. But I speak as a layman. Maybe my brother could help.
No, actually, MULUKA, you're quite spot on. The Constitution actually allows for assignment of some provisions at the county level to other entities. And as is rightly pointed out, when the former governor Sonko signed that deed of assignment, it actually allowed for the creation of the NMS. So actually, they're not operating in extra constitutional capacity in any way. It is everything so far has been done above board, and I wouldn't want to impugn their integrity. So far, so good. Let's not spoil a good thing. Let them carry out the activities.
Looks like you guys passed by some place today. Amani mandazi haneni imetoka huko. Our task here is not character
assassination. Our task here is not about saying bad things about the government, about those who are in power. And I think it is fair, only fair and right, that we take that kind of approach. So that when we also talk about their blemishes, and which are many, they understand that we have nothing personal against them. We have no merchandise in these things.
All right. Wambui Mashari is asking about succession. Why does it take long? Succession. Why does succession take long?
Well,
And also there's also an issue of accessing resources that maybe has been left by someone who has passed on. A succession, and maybe you can combine that as well very quickly.
yeah, the wheels of justice, especially in this country of ours, the gears turn very slowly. But I agree, it could be faster. First of all, we have a very high backlog of cases and in the courts. And also the judiciary staff could be more. And don't forget that our former Chief Justice was the same one who was crying for addition of resources. These are some of the issues that would be addressed if the judiciary was funded to the capacity that as it should be. Yeah, but also takes long also for another reason. You also need to give time for all interested parties to avail themselves. Yeah, when succession is a very touchy issue, and normally once it's done, it is very final. Yeah. So you don't want to rush it too much where you find out now someone has come out of the woodwork and we disclose this, we adjudicated the matter in a time that was maybe too quick for all the parties to receive justice adequately. But I agree, it could be faster and it should be. Yes.
All right. So how does one access maybe properties left, I believe would probably left by someone who is deceased?
First of all, we have to get what is known as, first of all, if there are two scenarios. If the deceased left a will, then it's very cut and dry. But in most scenarios, especially in the African context, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So what happens in either case is they appoint an administrator of the estate, who's now, if there's a will, the administrator of the estate is going to distribute those assets accordingly as per the wishes of the deceased. If there is no will, then now it will be subject to a court process, and that the administrator again will still basically do the same thing. Yeah, but the first thing is an administrator has to be appointed.
All right.
Could he tell us a bit about whether wills can be contested and successfully so?
Oh yes. Wills can and have been successfully contested in the past. One of the most common grounds that is used for contesting a will is incapacity. That's one, that maybe when the deceased was making the will, he was maybe didn't have full control of his mental faculties. Another one is duress. Especially when you find where someone had 2, 3, 4, 5 wives, they'll say, bibi wa mwisho alikuwa amemkalia sana, and forced him to do that. He didn't want to do it.
Na wa kwanza?
Kwa nini wa mwisho peke yake ndiye anakalia? Na hii kukaliwa wanapima aje? So it can be contested.
It can be contested, yes.
Right. Caspar Sitemba says, what should be done to ensure the executive implements all court orders?
Wow, that's a tough one.
No,
Doctor
should just be jailed. Commit the responsible official to civil jail. There's no such thing as an amorphous executive. There's a specific member of the executive, as a specific official who occupies a certain office, who is the bearer of that office. To him that order is specifically issued, and who defies it. And in this country it's done within the framework of impunity. And the courts and the law, which as we have been told is an ass, is very clear. Even
being an ass is still clear.
Being an ass, that that person may then be sought to be captured wherever he or she may be, and be arraigned before the issuing court, and that court would commit that individual to jail, civil jail.
The question is, have we empowered our bureaucrats and basically even our security agencies with not only the power, but the confidence to go after a cabinet secretary or some other senior person who is openly flouting court orders? People, the provisions may be there in law, but in reality, people always chicken out and look for excuses not to.
Then they should vacate those spaces and those offices
Of empowerment.
so that we have persons who are courageous enough. What more power do you need than the power that has been given to you by the law? And ours is written law. It is very clear. You can talk about
The letter
the
is there.
specific article, the specific clause, the letter, the spirit. It's there in black and white, and you can exercise the powers conferred upon you by those specific items of the law. Arrest, the day we arrest and pack away in jail just one, not even two of these fellows, then they will know, okay, the law is superior to me.
Moja tu. Haya, Simon 68 says you're watching from Monrovia. Elias Lagat, good morning. Tentacle tuning from Eldora. Thank you so much. Geoffrey Odiambo, good morning, my brother. Bitoka, I'm watching from Kisumu. Keep it up. That's a good job you are doing. Thank you so much, my brother Geoffrey Odiambo. Just fought Jama Kabura, you locked. Casper September, way to go, George. Haya, on Peter Shiko, what is wrong? Haya, sawa. Mambo, I think now we go to the issues of the legal issues of the week. There's a maritime dispute between Kenya and Somalia, and looks like Somalia is giving us a thrashing. I don't know. Kenya has also made a move, which I think we also need to discuss in terms of is it legal to shut down refugee centers, Dadaab and all that. But let's focus on the maritime dispute. Dr. MULUKA, what do you make of it?
Okay,
and has Kenya given it?
I'm more conversant with the camps issues. As you are aware, my doctorate thesis was on forced migration and the dialectic of home and return. And I'm aware that Kenya is a signatory to the relevant instruments. Whether there are questions of the Geneva Convention of 1951, the attendant protocol of 1967, whether it is about the Convention on Statelessness of 1954, whether it's the Convention on Reduction of Statelessness of 1961, and many other laws on protections of persons, freedoms of movement, and the protection of refugees. And sometimes I get puzzled when persons like Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i issue the kinds of edicts that they have done. He must also be conversant with the Constitution of Kenya, and which constitution domesticates those international instruments that we are signatory to. And an edict such as the one he issued, giving the UNHCR the ultimatum to ensure that the camps are going to be closed down within 2 weeks of that day. I think it was 2 or so days ago. Are vacuous, empty edicts, because believe you me, not in 2 weeks' time, but in 2 months' time and in 2 years' time, those camps will still be there. And so I don't know why anyone wants to sound out those kinds of ultimatums. But the maritime thing is really about territorial sovereignty. And the way I understand, and perhaps I speak with a bit of bias, the things of our territory are number one in our laws, and we may not just sit back and allow our territory as Kenyans to be taken away. I think a Somali citizen also looking at it conversely would be of the same opinion, that it's their territory and therefore that it should not be taken away. I've read something about how the latitudes and longitudes are behaving. I'm not very familiar with that. When I look at the maps which you people in the media have been giving us, I get completely confused as to whether the border should progressively go downwards, southwards, or whether it should latitudinally go horizontally eastwards. And therefore, I would agree that the matter should be left to arbitrators who should ultimately tell us what is what there. Remember that even the borders that we are beholden to were not drawn by ourselves. They were drawn by occupying external authorities.
The colonialists.
We agreed through various international instruments that the borders would be left where they were at independence. But we know that the borders of Kenya have changed numerous times, maybe about even 6 times, since they were first delineated, where you will find that places like Turkana, for example, were at some point not part of Kenya. Even Emanyudia, where I come from, was at some point not part of Kenya. We were part of Uganda. My late grandfather was born in Uganda. When you look at his baptismal documents, they even talk about the diocese of Mombasa, but he is in Uganda. And I see that while his name was Samuel, it reads Samwiri from Uganda. This matter was supposed to be arbitrated by the African Union. An agreement was mutually reached to that effect. Somalia bolted out of that agreement and took the matter before the ICJ. Within the ICJ, there have been enough reasons for Kenya to believe that the arbitration may not be free and fair, and made the relevant applications. Kenya has also come up with further evidence. I have not seen the evidence. As a layman, the lawyer will tell us. I believe that there's a distinction between evidence and proof. That proof is derived from evidence.
Indeed.
And that we have come up with further evidence which could help to prove our case. That court is refusing admission of
the new evidence.
The new evidence. And that is where I start having very serious problems with the law. That the law can even tell you that this evidence is time-barred. Are they looking for the truth, or are they
after time
more mesmerized by and with technicalities? We have also come forth with other attorneys whom we consider very useful to helping us to make our point. So there are those problems. And I speak both as a patriotic Kenyan and as a patriotic African. And I think in the balance, my country has a point.
Okay. All right. The same thing with you, Okulu?
Yeah. I also have very similar views regarding the maritime dispute. First of all, I want to address the recent edict by the Cabinet Secretary regarding the refugees. On humanitarian grounds, we should not advocate for immediate closure of the camp. I mean, these refugees are innocent, they fled war. Let's also be a bit compassionate and not make them suffer because of a territorial dispute. However, we as a country have accommodated these refugees at great cost, and over a very big, very long period of time. And I think we should also, due recognition should be given for what we have done as a nation. And which is why I'm flabbergasted that Somalia's intrusion, purport to intrude on our territory. It's like, imagine you're going to work and you're giving your friend a lift in your car, and he starts demanding that you change the station. It's absurd. Yeah. And regarding no. It cannot be done like that. Yeah. And also the process that is currently being done at the ICJ is vastly unfair. Kenya has given out several objections. In fact, we've pulled out, essentially. This is a one-sided proceeding. The other day, Somalia even used Kenya's time to give its own submissions. Wow. Yeah, the evidentiary issues, we've not been given time. We asked for more time to submit our evidence. It didn't happen. And then even one of the judges on the panel is a Somali who has actually adjudicated similar cases on behalf of Somalia. How absurd is it now that is that what you call a fair process, really? Yeah, and also it's that area, the disputed area, and as you correctly put it, should be along the latitudinal line. But the disputed area is very prime, oil and gas, and also fishing, and it's believed in some circles that Somalia is actually acting on behalf of some Western powers. They're being used as a puppet to push their devious commercial interests in the region, as using Somalia basically as a conduit to push their selfish imperialist agenda, and we should not allow it at all. And it, as Bwana MULUKA had put it earlier on, we had an MOU initially, and it spelled out clearly how this thing is going to be adjudicated, but clearly some things are not worth the paper they're written on. Here we are, but I really urge the people of the government of Somalia to sit down with the government of Kenya and let's hash this thing out in a civil manner. We are brothers and sisters. There is no need for such things to go. We are airing our dirty linen. Yet we are neighbors, surely.
It's actually very dirty.
Yeah, but it's very
dirty.
The
linen is very dirty.
That said and done, because our people say that we first chase away the wild beast, and then we must address the chickens and ask them why they are also straying too far away. I think there's need to separate issues. We are mixing up things here. You cannot use the case of the maritime affair to decide on how to deal with the refugee camps. These refugees camps do not just have Somali nationals. When you look at the population within those camps, you will find that there are people there from Chad, there are people from Nigeria, from DRC, from Congo Brazzaville, from Ghana, even from Europe, Yugoslavia. You find there are refugees there. These are people who, as defined by Article 1 of the Geneva Convention, have run away from their countries or places of regular abode out of fear of persecution for a wide range of things that are defined by the statute. And we have signed that statute. And the laws themselves are hostile to what is called refoulement. Refoulement is the return of a refugee to his or her country without their consent. And although we are aware that in the past, especially in the 90s, I think it was during the reign of Sadako, the UNHCR, the commissioner, Sadako Ogata of Japan, that the 90s were defined as the age of repatriation. It did not work, and it can't work. And it's a very complex situation. You are dealing with people who, in certain cases, gave up on those countries a long time ago. You are dealing with situations where if you return those people, you also have the responsibility to ensure that they are properly resettled in the places that you are taking them to, that they are going to be rehabilitated, they are going to fit in. And there are laws which this country is signatory to. I think part of our problem also becomes that we are so used to doing things in the framework of impunity that we sometimes want to carry that impunity to the international arena with some very, very embarrassing outcomes. What really happens when you decide that you're not appearing in court? And I don't know the finer details. I do not know whether the attorneys we sent there, led by the Honorable Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, made an appearance and said we are officially withdrawing from this process. And even when you say that, the procedure within that system allows the court to regardless go ahead and hear the matter ex parte. I don't know whether we have taken that into account. In fact, in journalism, as in politics, this matter should be occupying page 1 of our newspapers. It should be coming on air as item number 1 in the news broadcasts on radio and on TV, not whether Ruto is going to work with Raila or whether there is a sacred, holy One Kenya alliance, or whether President Uhuru has whipped the old KANU back into formation minus Ruto. That is neither here nor there. These are alliances that will come and pass and go away tomorrow. What about the taking away of our territory that is upwards of 100,000 square miles that we are talking about?
That's quite a lot.
And with all those resources within that space, and with the cause to believe that Somalia has already auctioned some of the rich gas and other petroleum product blocks within that space, should that not be item number 1 on every page, on the first page of every newspaper, in every news broadcast? Should we not be getting regular updates? Remember, the territory of Kenya and its sovereignty are protected by Article 255 of the Constitution of Kenya, that even if it may be varied, we would need to come to a referendum. Where does that leave us in this context where someone is claiming that space? Are we all as Kenyans going to need to be enjoined in that conversation? And before we allow that territory to go to Somalia to hold a referendum?
Good question.
and also the question is, Wakili, if you look at the demands that Somalia is making, it's claiming ownership through border, through border projections.
Yes.
And if every other region, every other country within the East African side, which shares the Indian Ocean, makes the same claims, what could happen? Because when you look at the way the compassing of the territories, it could cut across. There could be a lot of crisscrossing within the auction. Indeed. And the question is, where has this debate been for all this time?
That's the question.
How did Kenya have its ownership that now is being challenged?
That's a question for the Somalians. But traditionally, borders across the maritime sphere are done latitudinally. However, where Somalia came from, Somalia's genesis of this issue is that Kenya got into an agreement with Tanzania some years back that our border with theirs would be along the dotted line of the border. So Somalia is like, if that is the case, then why don't you also do the same thing with Kenya and Somalia? But the thing is, that was an agreement between Kenya and Tanzania. Yeah, and also, don't forget, as I mentioned earlier on, Kenya and Somalia already had a pre-existing agreement. So they're trying to change the game at the 89th minute. The middle of the game. Indeed.
All right. That's interesting to see. So I don't know, what is your projections on the same? What do you think will happen?
If the ICJ continues the way it's continuing, I fear that they're going to give an adverse ruling against our country. Yeah, but it's my hope that cooler heads will prevail. And I reinstate my appeal to the government of Somalia and that of my government of the Republic of Kenya as well, to sit down and discuss this issue out of court.
Okay.
Yeah, because, we have sacrosanct duty to protect our territory. And that is heavy.
Yes.
Very heavy. Do we want to go that way? We have sacrosanct duty.
We lost the whole country.
To protect our territory, the sovereignty of our territory. Or as Jomo Kenyatta used to say, if you want to take 1 inch of our country, then come and take the whole of it. Kama una uwezo.
Kuja bebe yote.
Yeah.
So what will happen if we lose this case?
Then we will protect our sovereignty.
Oh.
We will use all internationally recognized methods of protecting our space. You know that international law allows us to protect our sovereignty by no matter what means.
Indeed, by any means necessary, we shall protect the sovereignty and the territory of the Republic of Kenya.
The same international law that is at work here
will be applied.
will
Whether
be
adversely or
applied because the international law gives us the mandate as Kenyans, as well as it gives every other country the mandate to protect our territorial sovereignty, no matter by what means.
There's something also that I've noted, and that is something I'd also want to throw to both of you. I've noticed that Kenyan Somalis in leadership, leaders in Kenyan Somalis in leadership in this country have been supporting Somalia.
Yes.
In the maritime dispute.
Yes,
Somehow.
yes.
How does that feel? Because you say that as Kenyans we have the duty and the responsibility of defending our territories. Now, when you find Kenyan Somalis who are Kenyans, who are Kenyan citizens, defending a foreign country or supporting a foreign country in taking away the territory of a country that they inhabit, what does that mean then?
It's the challenge of what Professor Bethel Alan Ogot has called the failure of Project Kenya. That before the advent of colonialism, we were different sovereign nations. If we look at our tribes as the nations, and that colonialism put us together in the geographical expression that was their colony. And when that ended, we have been trying to build a new nation called Kenya. And there are people whose sense of belonging, for whatever reason, seems to be a lot more elsewhere than it is in Kenya. And nowhere in this region, the entire Eastern African region, all the way to the Horn of Africa, has this expressed itself more robustly than in the Somali community. Right from the days of Mohammed Siad Barre, there was always that dream of a greater Somali nation. And the Somali peoples of Eastern Africa and the Horn of Africa nursed, and I suspect that they continue to nurse, a yearning for a greater Somalia republic that would see parts of Ethiopia, parts of Kenya, parts of Djibouti.
Not even parts of. I think they want to take over Djibouti as a whole because Djibouti is a very small country.
Being subsumed into that greater Somalia nation. We used to say when we were younger people that their star on their flag has fingers pointing at different countries in the region, and each of those fingers was claiming territory there. And here we saw what was called irredentism. Irredentism is different from secession, where in secession, a certain people within a country may want to break away and become an independent state, such as we saw in Biafra in Nigeria in 1967, 1970. And today we are again hearing rumblings of the old Biafra dream. They seem to be coming back, where some within the Igbo community of Nigeria would want to break away and have their own state. Or in Cameroon, there is what is called Ambazonia, where the southern part of the country, you have the English-speaking Cameroon, keen to break away from the French-speaking Cameroon up north. And they would want to establish themselves as an independent state. That is different from irredentism here in Eastern Africa, where some people want to break away from their present countries to go and join another country and become part of it. And I suspect that that kind of dream seems to be tantalizing the minds of some of our leaders, political leaders of Somalic extraction.
What do you make of that, George?
I actually agree. As had been alluded to earlier on, our borders are colonial constructs and they're arbitrarily drawn. So you find scenarios in which people who identify with a certain ethnic extraction feel a certain kinship with their ethnic brethren that supersedes that of their citizenship. Yeah, which is what we're seeing right now. And it's quite unfortunate because at the end of the day, one has to make a decision. Are you Kenyan or are you not? Yeah, so because if push comes to shove and options are to be exercised, as has been alluded to earlier on what side would these individuals fall? That's a question for
those guys. That's a question for the leaders, Somali leaders in Kenya. Kenyans of Somali origin who are pushing, who are actually supporting and pushing the agenda of Somalia. I even saw there's another MP who had put a portrait of the Somali president in their offices, and I wonder if such things could have happened in times of Moi.
I think that's treason. Put very simply. We may have problems and challenges with the government of the day, but our nation is bigger than any government of the day. We must be willing to stand up for our country, for our territorial sovereignty and integrity, and to embrace the notion of one Kenya, and to continue dreaming about that project Kenya, which may not even come in our own lifetime, but whose baton we must pass on to the next generation, and in that sequence, that generation to subsequent generations, until someday those who will be there will have the country that we have dreamt of. Very often we talk about people we call the founders, or the founding fathers, without seeming to recognize that in another 200 years' time, those who will be there will consider us all to have been the founding fathers of this Kenyan nation. So let us play our role in the founding of the Kenyan nation. It will have problems and challenges. Those are what we call the birth pangs of a new birth. We are still a nation trying to come to birth. We haven't come to birth. That is why you are seeing people still forming themselves around in what sometimes look like ethnic-based political affiliations, political alliances of an ethnic nature. Even I, as BARRACK, sometimes I'm overwhelmed by my sense of belonging to the Luya nation. When I see some people trying to box us in a certain way, the Kalenjin will also feel the same, the Kikuyu, the Luo. We haven't quite reached that point where we have cohered and the national values, dreams, and principles override our ethnic national identities. All those problems and challenges notwithstanding, we must still continue striving towards one Kenyan nation. You want to sympathize with Somalia because you think they are your brothers, they look like you, they speak the same language like you do. Look, Somalia is easily the only country in the world where everybody is of the same tribe. And yet, they have had one of the longest civil strifes, because once you inform yourself with those kinds of thoughts, you can never know where it's going to stop. You start by saying we are Somali, so you go to Somalia. You get there, then you say, no, we are Ogaden, or we are, I don't know of what other clan, we are of this clan.
You know what clan was?
You get into the clan. You say we are of this sub-clan. You get into the sub-clan. You say, no, we are of this
sub-clan.
Sub-clan. Then you say we are of this family. Within that family, you say father. We are of this mother. Yeah? Others say we are of this mother, we are of this father. You get even there. Elechi Amadi has said in the biographical narrative titled Sunset in Biafra, that when you start going that way, it's called the culture of the herd that will belong to this herd. Even the white cells in the body might start fighting against the red cells. So what happens?
Well put. It's on a granular level.
It's a good way to end, I think. You know, from he's spoken from a communication point of view.
Indeed.
He knew when to end. How to end it. All right, now there's another question about, and I think I didn't want to avoid this one. The issue of Mama was dragged in Kisumu using a pickup, and Nyong'o has only come out and said, "I've suspended the employees," and this woman have given her kibanda. I mean, how does the law function in such a case?
No, the law is very clear. That is a crime. And first of all, the fact that in this day and age, in 2021, in a so-called developing country, and one that is as sophisticated as Kenya is, with a rising middle class and a very robust constitution, that such heinous crimes can actually take place and go unabated and unpunished is very unfortunate. This is a jailable offense. Suspension is a mere, in fact, a slap on the wrist is an understatement. It's an insult and a spit in the face, especially on all Kenyans and Wanjikus. It's very wrong. Yeah.
All right. Now there's also the issues. There's a conversation that's going on in Parliament currently about we are rubber stamps, we are not rubber stamps. The issues of Article, is it 256 or 56? 256 on public participation, and that on BBI. There's also the conversation of editing, not editing, and other stories. What is the role of Parliament in this thing? This BBI?
Well, the Constitution is very clear. First of all, let me clarify. Let me try and codify the debate that is going on right now. The issue at hand is whether Parliament right now, first of all, can make any amendments to the bill as currently presented, and what entails public participation. You know, Articles 181 and 256 have to be read conjunctively. Yeah. So Parliament. There's one group of school of thought that is saying Parliament is a mere rubber stamp, that they're just supposed to pass the bill as is, and pass it on to the president. But you see, the thing is, there are substantive issues that still need to be raised, especially issues that were raised at the public participation stage. That's how Article 257 comes in. So my belief is that Parliament cannot really be labelled as merely ceremonial, because if that's the case, what is the point of having MPs? In the first place, there are very many issues that have been raised that need to be addressed. Let the bill be brought before Parliament, and these issues dealt with substantively. But this issue of calling Parliament as a mere ceremonial rubber stamp is actually quite misguided.
So actually, Parliament is has the rights and is placed to make the changes that they want to make.
No. Let me clarify. They cannot change, because they don't forget this thing has gone through the county assembly. First of all, the county assembly, and now it's at parliamentary stage. So now to make any alterations would actually be to countermand the will of the people of the county assembly. What we're saying is that Parliament has a right at least to debate thoroughly, and persuade each other, and at least bring out these issues of public participation, because otherwise public participation is a waste of time. It's just something that we do to tick a box and to window dress. So Mama Wanjiko, Mama Mbogo on the ground will be like, issues that are raised at the public participation stage are not being talked about. So at least let Parliament talk about them, let them be discussed, and then now whether they pass it or not.
But the legislative authority of the land vests with Parliament.
Indeed.
The challenge here, I think, is a challenge that is congenital. It was born with the Constitution of Kenya 2010 that has got two articles that seem to contradict one another. One is an article on amendment of the Constitution through the public entry point. That if it is a public initiative, it will go through the motions. It has already gone through up to where it gets to Parliament. If Parliament debates and there are no issues that are referendable, and here Parliament is both the National Assembly and the Senate, and if both concur and there are no referendable issues, then the bill will pass on to the President for assent, and the Constitution will be considered amended. On the other hand, if there are referendable issues, if either house rejects, and I think there's an ambiguity there, even as a student of linguistics. It's not quite clear what if either house rejects, whether it means that if both houses accept, then it's not referendable. But here is a situation where, while we have that a particular article, and which states expressly that Parliament will not make amendments to the bill, it has to be accepted in whole or rejected in whole. There's also an article in the same Constitution that says the legislative authority of the Republic will vest with Parliament. So how does it vest with Parliament without Parliament having the authority to make an amendment on this Constitution? Where, in my view, there is a conflict between two articles that are born like twins in the same Constitution, I think the balance ought to tip towards allowing Parliament to make adjustments and corrections. Because from there, this matter goes to the public. And you remember earlier on, we were talking about persons like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who did not believe, and this may not sound really right, politically right, but I'm just reporting what they said. People like Jean-Jacques Rousseau did not believe that the massive population had the capacity to judge on what was right in matters of legislation, even in matters of elections. That's why they were not allowed to participate in making key and critical decisions of this kind. And it did not begin with them. You can go back to the world of ancient antiquity, where you find philosophers like Socrates, like Plato, and who believed in democracy. But they also did not believe in democracy as a mass exercise. Because there are people out there, we are hearing even today, politicians will come here where I'm seated and they will say they are misleading the people.
Yes.
They say the people are being lied to. And the people eventually make a determination on these matters based on whether it is Raila Odinga who has told them, or Musalia Mudavadi, or William Ruto, or Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, or whoever, Kalonzo Musyoka. They say if Kalonzo Musyoka has read and he has told us we should vote this way, then we as the Akamba people are going to vote
to say
that way. Yeah? So we are in a very dangerous place, but we're very finally, because I recognize I'm taking too long on this, I should stop. Very finally, this parliament has allowed itself, the 12th parliament, to be a rubber stamp. It is a parliament which is whipped in State House. Even the Kanu government, at the very worst of times, never whipped parliament at State House. The moment these people are summoned to State House by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, they go there to witness power at work. And when they leave, they go to do what the president has told them. This practice of summoning leaders to State House, be they governors, like we are seeing, be they members of parliament, and getting them to go in a certain direction, is a very dangerous practice. It erodes democracy. It derogates the democratic regime. And so this parliament has been a rubber stamp. It has done some very outrageous things. If there's an MP listening out there, and I hope they are listening, they'd better listen and hear me loud and clear, that when the history of legislation is written in this country, the 12th parliament will occupy a very shameful slot in that history because of having allowed itself to be a rubber stamp. It does what Raila Odinga says, what President Uhuru Kenyatta says, and an honorable elected member has even got the temerity to stand on the floor of that house and state for the records in the Hansard that we follow Raila Odinga like cows. It has been captured in permanent record, and that is how the 12th parliament of this country will be remembered in the annals of history.
Okay. There's something also that is...
Actually, I believe it was Churchill who put it best, just to echo your sentiments, Bwana MULUKA, when he said that the biggest argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. So it's actually very unfortunate to hear such statements being made by an honorable member of parliament in the House.
Right. There's something is mentioned about the decisions of the houses, which is now almost looked like bilateral house. If the National Assembly rejects the bill or doesn't approve, and the Senate does approves, or either way, flip-flop, vice versa, what happens?
If it doesn't go through, and it goes back to stage 1. I believe that's how it is currently.
It won't go to the people for referendum.
Oh, yes, actually, you're right. It will actually go to... Parliament actually has no power in this scenario. Sorry, I got it twisted for a second there. Parliament has no power, actually. It can reject it, but the referendum is still going to take place because of the fact that it went through the county assembly stage as well, and public participation. Parliament at this stage is basically just to express its views, make its voice be heard, and now pass it on there. But either way, the referendum is happening, especially given the fact that it's also dealing on several issues that deal with the parliament itself. Yeah.
All right. There's also, now let's go to toka nchi kidogo. There's a dam dispute between Ethiopia and Egypt. And I think it has been there since immemorial somehow.
Yes.
And that is that's about the Nile.
Yes. It's a very thorny issue that is threatening to bring our region, the greater Eastern Africa region, into conflict. Basically, there's a treaty that was signed in, I think it was 1957, basically that gave Egypt veto powers over all activities that could take place on the River Nile. And this was actually a colonial document that other countries such as Sudan and Ethiopia have come out strongly against. So now recently, Ethiopia decided to go ahead and leverage its resources on the Nile to build a dam for the benefit of its people. And Egypt has come out very strongly. And it's basically almost a similar scenario to what we're having in Somalia, where extreme options may have to be taken. But from where it stands right now, it's a very thorny issue. It's being adjudicated at an international level, but it doesn't seem to be making a lot of headway. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a very unfortunate agreement. It talks of the wretchedness of the colonial dispensation in Africa and the decisions that were made during that time. Because that agreement was, in fact, its foundations go back to 1929. Which would be just about 6 years in the case of Kenya after the establishment of the colony Uganda, the same. The agreement was ostensibly between the riparian countries or colonies or territories of the headwaters of the River Nile. On the one hand, and Egypt on the other hand, that condominium of Egypt and the Sudan up north. But who are the authorities? It was the British.
Yes.
The British were down south in East Africa, the Lake Basin, in the Nile Valley, signing an agreement with themselves up there. Of course, the case of Ethiopia is a little different because Ethiopia did not fall in the brackets of colonized territories, barring a brief Italian occupation that at some moment during the wars, Ethiopia remained independent. But you can see the British signing an agreement with themselves, protecting for Egypt the headwaters of the River Nile with a selfish commercial agenda, because they used to say, as Robinson and Gallagher have captured in the volume titled Africa and the Victorians, that whoever controls the headwaters of the River Nile will control the trade in the Mediterranean Sea. It was a very critical consideration for themselves, hence the signing of this treaty between the British and the British. And it continues to give us problems. Look, in Emmanuel, where I come from, we have got small streams that emanate from Mount Elgon. They come and get into the River Nzoia. They come and get into the River Yala. The people from that area know that we have such rivers as the Upper Isiuhu and the Lower Isiuhu, and they go into Lake Victoria. And then they find the exit. Now, who is looking after those streams? The natural vegetation, the floral life, the botanical life in the riverbeds is dying. Are the Egyptians concerned about the maintenance of those riverbeds in the small streams, including in your village, Bitok? They are contributing to this,
To the river, to the big river.
this big river that eventually they contribute to the lake and eventually to the big river. There are small streams in Tanzania, in Rwanda. Are the Egyptians helping us to look after these rivers? In Ethiopia,
They want to rip from where they are not sowing or protecting. Anyway, and for that reason, the ship is stuck. There's a ship that is stuck at
Suez Canal.
these are the Suez Canal.
and they tell us that for us to use these waters, even if we should want to use the waters of the Lake Victoria for irrigation in the lake basin, we must first get permission from Egypt.
Imagine. It's very unfortunate. Yeah, I don't agree. Yeah, I don't agree with Egypt's position on it at all. On that issue at all. The Nile is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a public, it's international resource. You can't claim territory over here.
Before we even get to the Nile, the lake, here in Kenya, if we had the will and the wherewithal,
Yes.
we might say that we want to irrigate the semi-arid zones of the country with the waters of the Lake Victoria. We want to pipe them. To do that, we would need to get written permission from Egypt, barring which Egypt would declare a state of war between Kenya and themselves, between Uganda.
Our own water, which is on our country.
Yes.
Lake Victoria.
Yes.
You
Source of the
you
Nile.
have to get.
Absolutely. You can't. You can't do certain things with the waters of Lake Victoria here without written agreement
From Egypt.
with Egypt.
Otherwise, they'll say you are infringing their territory, which is in Kenya.
That you're putting their life at risk, and they will even go to back to the Bible and talk about the floods, how the floods would come and they would grow food in the riverbed and so on and so forth, and that the River Nile is the lifeline of
The
Egypt.
Egyptians.
But the Lake Victoria must also be
Should be also
the
our
lifeline
lifeline.
of the people.
Yeah, where it is. Anyway, so what happened in the Suez Canal?
Recently, a very interesting occurrence happened in the Suez Canal. It's a very thin strip that was dug across the land, around 180 kilometers, and it only allows one ship at a time to pass through.
180 kilometers, a small strip.
In terms of, in the grand scheme of things, yes, it is.
Okay.
But recently, so it only allows one ship at a time to pass through. So one ship has, I think a couple of days ago, has run aground, and it has, almost 34% of shipping worldwide passes through the canal annually. So this has now caused backlog all over the world. The ship has run aground. It's not clear how long it's going to take for this ship to be pulled out. So it's something that we're going to monitor very closely. It's a very interesting occurrence internationally.
All right. Now, lastly, the question people have been asking about the expulsion of DP from Jubilee Party. And yesterday, actually, I remember that he's ready to get out and work to youth here. But again, Jubilee has a constitution. He also said that he's the deputy party leader of Jubilee Party.
Yes.
There's also the issues of impeachment, which has also come in, conversation that has been running. What are the legalities of these processes? Because the proposal has already been taken to the president, like my good brother from Manyuri has said, that people go to the mountain these days to go and get some counsel on what should happen. So I wonder, how do you argue these two cases legally?
Well, the Jubilee Party constitution is very clear that the deputy president shall be the deputy president. The deputy party leader shall be the deputy president. Yeah, so there are two issues there. Is one, removing him as deputy president and removing him as deputy party leader. Removing him as deputy president, I already addressed earlier on the threshold that would be required constitutionally and the grounds. Removing him as party leader.
What is the threshold for removing as deputy president?
If I recall, it's gross misconduct. And
how do you describe, even when this guy is sitting here in my studio like this, I'll say he has gross misconduct.
It's open to interpret. Gross misconduct is a term.
How do you measure gross misconduct?
Exactly, that's a term that has plagued lawyers for generations because it's open to interpretation. What I may define as gross misconduct, what may be offensive to me may not be offensive to you. But there are things that are maybe universally recognized, maybe fraud, theft, and that kind of thing. But removing him as Jubilee party leader, because first of all, I think yesterday he already expressed his willingness to exit. But were he not, let's say he was aliamua kukaa ngumu, I'm not sure what the Jubilee Party constitution says regarding removing him as deputy party leader.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would add a third thing. I think my brother has talked about removing him as deputy party leader, removing him as deputy president. The third one would be to remove him from the party, because being removed as a deputy party leader could still leave him as a member of the party outside the Jubilee fraternity, it is of course recognized that he is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, duly elected on the same ticket with President Uhuru Kenyatta. And the fact that they internally remove him does not ipso facto get him out of office of president. And that constitution is written a little ambiguously. I've taken a look at it. I think it's Article 33 or something like that. Usually you'd expect it to be inversed the other way, that the deputy party leader shall be the deputy president. In fact, they should even have said shall be the deputy presidential candidate. But they say that the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya shall be the deputy party leader. And I think there are problems there, some of an even legal nature. Suppose the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya is from a different party. Does he or she become the deputy president of the Jubilee party? But that's how that constitution is rendered. But this third item of removing somebody from the party, ladies and gentlemen, this hand of mine has signed an expulsion letters when I had a brief stint with the politicians, and I was flattered with the occupancy of the office of Secretary General of a political party. I can tell you it is a gargantuan task to remove a member from the party. It's easier said than done. If they commence that process today, presidential fiat notwithstanding, they will complete the process sometime around June, July 2023. Not 22, 2023. And I say they shall complete the exercise. I'm not saying they will succeed. You can complete without succeeding. The lawyers call it determination. The matter can be determined eventually, because the processes are mammoth. I need not go into them just now.
Okay, and finally, Wakili Sonko is still being held for accusations of terrorism. I don't know, participating in quote-unquote terroristic operations. I don't know what that means. Is still being held in prison. I don't know, is it in hospital and all that? And you wonder, do we have a justice system? Do we have a constitution? How does that make you feel as a lawyer? Do you think that is legal?
Well, far be it, first of all, that's a case that is sub judice, so far be it from me to try and attempt to second guess a court process that is still ongoing. But on a personal level, I mean, this country of late has had a history of people being hounded out of office, or rather even arrested on trumped-up charges. You'll recall, was it last year or the year before? There was a purge on senior state officials and parastatal chiefs. You know, if you go and actually look at what was going on, a lot of these guys were actually innocent, may have been innocent of what they are being accused of. They were victims of political expediency because they were perceived to be aligning with people that had fallen out of favor with the powers that be. But a lot of these guys were young, promising careers that were now pushed to the wayside. So I think we need to re-examine ourselves as a country, where we use the tool of politics to deal with, or rather the justice system, to deal with people who are against us politically. That's all I'll say on the matter.
All right. No, he's a lawyer. He doesn't want to to gonga kucheza kupiga teke debe ya unga.
He might appear sometimes.
And since you're a politician also, there's someone who said,
I'm not a politician.
all right, you're okay, you've been you
I'm an observer of the political scene.
Also politicians and political.
All of these politicians are my friends. Starting with President Uhuru Kenyatta is my friend. In 2002, we were having a good chat when we were launching Musalia Mudavadi's book.
I did the president. I was almost asking, how many times have you launched Mudavadi? Anyway,
it is a matter of innocence on the part of those who ask that question, because it means that they have not surveyed the available literature. In 2002, I published Mudavadi's book titled Rethinking Africa's Development. And Uhuru Kenyatta launched it at a Nairobi hotel in November 2002. And he's my friend. That was the day we became friends. And we are still friends even now. So when we disagree a bit on things I say here, about the things he says and does, that doesn't mean that he's not my friend. William Ruto is my friend. Raila Odinga is my friend. Kalonzo Musyoka,
your friend.
Davadi, Moses, even Gideon Moi
Is your friend.
is my friend.
All these guys are your friends.
They're my friends. But I'm not a politician.
You've also not mentioned that I'm your friend.
You're not a politician, but if you're one, you're also my friend. In other words, we talk like Mark Twain, the man who wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, or Jonathan Swift, the man who wrote Gulliver's Travels, among other seminal publications. They mingled with politicians without compromising the key beliefs. And this was because at one given time, politician A may be the one who is articulating issues the way this philosopher has believed. The philosopher remains in the same position. When you articulate things in a certain way, you will find one another and agree ideologically. When you exit that kind of articulation, then you separate. Someone else might arrive there. So like today, for instance, William Ruto is saying certain things that I have always believed in. I don't know for how long he's going to remain in that position. But if he moves on, he will still leave me where he found me. And someone else might come and find me there. If you don't know how to read things, you may say BARRACK has moved. It's the same way the sun remains in the same place, and the planets
Move around it.
move around it. I must be the node around which the political planets
Yeah, the
orbit. Okay. So when you look at this question, what was it again? Just remind me. I think
the question was Sonko's detention.
Sonko's detention. Then you find that there's an arbitrary use of the law, instrumentalization of the law, because Sonko used to prance around with very heavy firearms. So some of these things that some of us have only seen images of in the papers and on TV. And nobody thought that they should arrest him or bring up issues of terrorism about him. When he was going to The Hague and punching walls and lying on the road. And I don't agree with the antics of Sonko. But when he's treated the wrong way, I must stand up for him and say that you are treating Sonko the wrong way. Because today it is Sonko. They come for Sonko today. nobody
Tomorrow will
speaks.
come for you.
The next day they go for Wakili here, nobody speaks. The fourth day they go for some bishop somewhere, nobody speaks. The fifth day they come for me. Then there's nobody left to speak.
For you.
Indeed.
So I must speak for Sonko and say what they are doing is wrong. It's unacceptable. He should go through the judicial processes as laid out in the law. And if he's found guilty, they jail him. The perception that I have as an observer of that scene is that they have instrumentalized the law. And I get extremely worried when I see that we are about to have a presidential appointee as an ombudsman in the judiciary. I fear for this country. I don't fear for myself. I'd rather tell this country what to be afraid of, like Julius Caesar, rather than what I fear. And I fear for this country.
Okay. Fear for this country. We all fear for the country. I fear for the country. Received greetings from KCB. Guys were saying they used to work with you in KCB. Wanasema nakupa salama. Wanasema unafanya kazi huko. Wanasema usalimiwe sana. Wanasema unafanya kazi mzuri, lakini kuna kitu wanasema uniachie alafu nitaangalia maneno yao.
Atuachie kitu kidogo.
Atuachie kitu alafu nitaangalia. List our elder from Manyuri is here. Thank you so much, George, for coming. This is your first time at Tackle. We hope to have you again.
Indeed.
Very soon. Our elder Duke of Manyuria.
I'm an ordinary.
What is it, the Prince Manyuria?
I'm an ordinary villager. Within the village, I belong to the order of the village buffalo.
What does a village buffalo do?
It's a decoration.
It's a
by the village. Just the same way you have Moran of the burning spear.
And there's no burning spear.
No, there is. and you know the notion of the burning spear begins with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. They say of his eyes that they looked like they had a flame inside. They had something reddish about them. They say few people dared to look him in the eye because they looked like there was a fire
burning in the eyes.
There was a burning of fire, which they called the burning spear. Yeah, so it is not something to be taken lightly. But the order of the village buffalo precedes all these other orders, and since customary law is recognized, in Manyuria, they would refer to me as Imboko Yengo. Imboko is the buffalo. So I belong to the village order
of the buffalo.
Of the buffalo, the order of the village.
Imboko. All right. Anyway, a buffalo is a buffalo. There's someone who told us usione simba menyesho kadhani ni paka. Wengine wakasema usione paka. Kwa hivyo at least you're a buffalo.
You must know that you are seeing a village buffalo.
I'm saying that we give respect to the village buffalo. Anyway, there's something that someone has asked you, and I think only non-fairness, because there's been asked severally about the alliances. Very quickly, NASA is collapsing. Jubilee already collapsed. We are seeing One Kenya, One Alliance. The logo of One Kenya, One Alliance, I'm told, is handshake. And then tulitoka kwa hii tuko pamoja, sasa tuko handshake.
Yes.
Now that's the logo of One Kenya, and clearly looks like the secretariat now is being redefined. VBI secretariat is being taken over by the One Kenya Alliance guys. There's also the conversation of the DP, most likely working with Raila Odinga again. And the person who's, and the president himself has been kind of destroying ODM from within. He called in the other ODM members the other day from Coast Region, and then a meeting with them. He's been calling from different regions and all that. And it looks like in Kenya, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Yesterday, I was seeing some hustler saying, in fact, the biggest hustler in this country is Raila Odinga. He suffered in jail. His father was kicked out of a job. And you wonder about politics. And that's where my friend MULUKA bounds. He brushes shoulders with, maybe even shoulders, the whole backs with them. And maybe he knows more what happens there. What do you think about the alliances that are shaping up and what could happen in the near future?
I must say it's very interesting. You know, in politics, there's no permanent friends and enemies, as is frequently touted. when it's well known that there is no love lost between the DP and the Right Honorable former Prime Minister. So the fact that there could be an incoming alliance, a sort of Raila-Ruto axis, actually shows you that politics is a very dynamic thing. Yeah. And one thing I think that is coming out of all this is, I must say, I give kudos to the President, His Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. He has shown himself to be a master political strategist, because many had actually written him off from the political aspect in terms of his capacity for political strategy. But as we are seeing, the movements on the chessboard as we speak are manifesting themselves, that this guy had a grand plan and it seems to be working in his favor. So it's got interesting times ahead. Let's wait and see what happens.
Daktari.
Yes, the tectonic plates, the political tectonic plates are still moving. They are going to settle. I don't know where they are going to settle. But one thing is not in doubt. When I see the formation and faces within the new Kenyan alliance, then I give it to President Moi and his Secretary General, Joseph Kamodo, who told us at the beginning of the restoration of multi-party democracy that KANU would rule this country for the next 100 years. And look at Kalonzo Musyoka and the order in which they went into politics. Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, or rather Kalonzo Musyoka, yes, it's Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula,
and then
Gideon Moi. Uhuru Kenyatta came in before Gideon Moi.
So
those are already five.
Pentagon.
And that is a pentagon, and it is an old KANU pentagon.
All boys reunion.
Moi's boys who have gravitated around the world in 80 days. Like Jules Verne would tell us, they've gone around the world in 80 days. They have come together. It is the old KANU minus William Ruto. Yeah? He's the only missing link, and Moi's sons
complete.
Will be complete.
Moi family is complete.
Together. The outsider is Raila Odinga, and who has served his role. And you can see he has already been pushed to the fringes. If he doesn't recognize that he is on slow puncture, then he has got wrong advice by himself and by those people who call themselves his cows. And that is the danger of having cows around you. They should have told you that this thing was coming. But that is the tragedy that befalls those who feel nice when cows. People call you Baba, Baba, and that you are infallible, then you know that you are staring at trouble. It should not surprise me if in the long run, Raila Odinga is going to be the isolated, alone standing man. And you have to give it to the old KANU book of tricks, political tricks, because he's in the fringes. He has lost Western. It is now completely protected. He lost the Rift Valley a long time ago. It doesn't matter whether it will go with Gideon Moi, William Ruto, or both. It is lost. He never quite had Ukambani, but temporarily through CORD and NASA, he had it. It is gone. Luo Nyanza itself is troubled. He lost to Ugenya. There's Kisumu, I don't know, town or whatever, one of those constituencies, which is not with him. There are rumblings there. He's steadily losing the coast if it is not yet lost. He lost Eastern, Upper Eastern, and he lost Northeastern. So he has some pockets of support in Nairobi, in Luo Nyanza, and let us say even in Kisii. Where does that leave him? At the next election, are we going to have a 3-horse run with the new Kenya Alliance on the one hand, Raila Odinga as an alone-standing man, William Ruto
with his other
as another alone-standing man, or are we going to have a fusion of Raila with Ruto, or will one of these two, Raila and or Ruto, join the new Kenya Alliance? What is going to happen? Where we are, the tectonic shifts are still going on. The stones haven't settled. They will settle somewhere. And the 5 partners there are looking at the BBI bill. They are seeing positions for themselves. Can Raila Odinga upset this?
What happens if he pulls out of it?
Only he can upset it. It doesn't matter now if he bolts. He has pushed it up to where they wanted it.
So there's no reverse.
Parliament rejects it, it goes to the people. The majority of the people who vote for this thing do not even understand it. They will only understand that Mudavadi has said, and Mudavadi is...
What will happen if Raila Odinga pulls out of the BBI and leads a no campaign with William Ruto?
First, is that possible? I think there's a sense in which William Ruto must still strongly bank on central Kenya. And opposing the BBI might not look very good for him.
Or joining up with Raila Odinga.
Joining up with Raila Odinga may not look very good for him. This is the perfect case of between a rock
and a very hard
and
place.
a very hard place, between the devil and the deep sea. But
We'll keep watching.
the people in the new Kenya Alliance have the people following them. Is it possible that the people can follow a certain principled movement and be part of it? How principled has been Raila Odinga in whipping the BBI, trying to force it upon us, even when we have told him, and I have told him myself, including here and elsewhere, that pause this reggae for a moment. Let us address certain things in it.
Some reflections.
And he refused. And those things we were telling him to stop and pause the reggae are about to catch up with
The things that are coming to hit him now.
And they're going to hit him very hard.
What?
And
They
he
say,
has already pushed this thing to a point of no return. And Uhuru Kenyatta does not need him anymore.
Wow.
Wow.
And he's showing him. All right. We'll keep seeing the tectonic plates moving out by Friday. Our good doctor will have something to tell us about how far the plates will be. But they say when you decide to keep Omieri as a pet, then you need to prepare for the day of eating. This has been The Tackle. We appreciate that you've been with us. Thank you so much, tacklers, who have been joined us. You have joined us this Friday. We appreciate you and wish you a very great weekend. We hope to see you on Monday once again. And thank you for our panelists for coming in. Asante sana Daktari, asante sana George. Na pia Daktari EKURU, tunakutakia kila laheri na pole sana kupoteza mpwa. Daktari hapa ameniambia unaitwa mpwa, lakini kwetu tuko na shida ya P na B. So sitaki kukosea niseme mbwa. So pole sana kwa kupoteza mpwa wako. Takia nafuu na Mungu walinde hadi Jumatatu. Tunatakia kila laheri. Thank you and bye bye. This is a Tackle and the Tackle ends now. See you. We love you. See you on Monday.